If you start getting frightened of it, then you make it worse. Because you project onto it all kinds of bogies and threats which don't exist in it at all. Whenever you meet a ghost, don't run away. Because the ghost will capture the substance of your fear and materialize itself out of your own substance. And will kill you eventually, because it will take over all your own vitality. So then, whenever confronted with a ghost, walk straight into it, and it will disappear.
Greetings citizens and welcome to ZeroSec Deepstate Dox 19 Part 2. Grab your milk and Monsanto laced cookies and let's take a quick look at where we left off, shall we? Interrepublic, they cover up Pfizer genetically modified AIDS virus which leaked and spread. Interrepublic also backs Bayer which knowingly infected consumers with the AIDS virus.
That after this company positively, absolutely knew that they had a medication that was infected with the AIDS virus, they took the product off the market in the US and then they dumped it in France, Europe, Asia, and Latin America.
Bayer is a derivation of the Nazi war machine IG Farben created, as well as creating heroin. But Bayer is considered common pain reliever thanks to Interpublic. Interpublic's goal and Harrisarm got Dow off the hook for the Bhopal disaster.
Yet another 15 to 20,000 people died over a longer period of time due to the effects of the poisonous gas.
Another chemically twisted company they run point for is Monsanto.
One carries 1,000 gallons of defoliant, which is very like ordinary weed killer in common domestic use in America. It comes in three main types: Agent Orange, Agent Blue, and Agent White.
By the 1960s, Monsanto were one of 9 contractors producing Agent Orange, which was used by the US military during the Vietnam War. It was meant to...
In fact, they're behind National Pest Control Association, which covers a plethora of bad pesticides, and Interpublic figures out how to stifle news of the side effect deformities. Interpublic's McCann Erickson also specializes in army recruitment propaganda.
This is a message to the US Army. A lot of people are calling this video propaganda, and quite frankly, yeah, that's exactly what it is. If you want to get people to join and fight for this country, how about you start being honest with them? I feel like honesty is the best policy. Instead, you feed them this bullshit lie. Just like the movies, just like the video games. Nah, man, nah.
Interpublic hid stock fuckery of WorldCom, leading to a greater bubble than Enron.
Unlike Enron and other monster accounting scandals, WorldCom was a series of amateur accounting violations. Basically, they capitalized their line costs on the balance sheet instead of recording them as expenses on the income statement. This inflated their net income and fooled their investors into thinking that the company was healthier than it actually was.
Now, let's say you're a crooked person and want to cheat the system. Instead of recording the fuel as an expense, you could capitalize it, mark it down as an asset, instead. That way, the fuel wouldn't affect your income statement or your net income. That's what WorldCom did, only on a much bigger scale. They capitalized their long-distance line costs, which amount as the single largest expense for telecommunications companies, as prepaid capacity. Translation: they cheated. Big time.
Interpublic's Weber Shandwick runs defense on for Pfizer's use of Nigerian children for testing drugs.
The last hurdle of a decade-long compensation claim battle. 17-year-old Shamsu undergoes a DNA test to prove he's a victim of a failed drug trial by the pharmaceutical company Pfizer that happened 15 years ago in Kano State, Nigeria.
Air America Radio was anti-establishment, and Interpublic aided Hewlett-Packard heading advertisers to boot them off the air. The crew mostly vanished except for Rachel Maddow, who became meaningless establishment.
In the years ahead, as we look back, we should all be proud of our passionate determination to assure that our nation's progressive voice would be heard loud and clear. Through the hard work and dedication of current staff and those who preceded you, a lasting legacy was forged, which will now continue through other voices and venues.
HP is a shit printer monopoly.
I've got a printer over here I've been using to help do my job, to protect your freedom. I called you up the other day because my printer's broke, and you want me to pay you to tell me how to fix it. I got something for you.
Interpublic protects monopolies, like Luxottica, which controls eye-air.
The margins on eyewear can be over 1,000% because Luxottica can do whatever they want. They can crush any competition. They took control of Oakley simply by limiting how many pairs they sold in Sunglass Hut stores. This crashed the Oakley stock and they were forced to merge. For Ray-Bans, they were selling at just $30 in major chain stores at the end of the 90s. Luxottica took them off the market for a year or so and then relaunched at almost 5 times the price.
HP dumps poisonous waste in third world countries along with the US government.
Where does all this e-waste come from? Much of it from the United States.
Washington Metro Area Transit Authority.
Property of the U.S. Army. Property of the United States government. State of Connecticut Mental Health Facility.
Even the Environmental Protection Agency.
HP, like Exxon, greenwashes via Interpublic's PR Earth 911.
Most consumers are just a wee bit concerned about the environmental impact of their purchases and their consumerism in general.
Interpublic Sandwich hides KBR Hall at Burton jails made to house 1/6 of America. KBR built Guantanamo.
They're disposable coffins, I believe he told me. And he says there's 100, at that time he said there was 125,000 there. And they were stacked, he told me 15 high. I asked him who owned them, and he stated that the CDC owned them and that they were leasing his land for storage.
Interpublic's MWW covered trillions in Merrill Lynch debt. Merrill merged with Bank of America through the Weber Shandwick arm of Interpublic. Insured books during the 2008 merger, meaning taxpayers are on the hook for the loss.
Now, Merrill Lynch just reported that they've just discovered hundreds of millions of dollars worth of losses on the books. This comes after being acquired by Bank of America and after they received hundreds of billions of dollars worth of government bailout money.
Interpublic's Draft Club does PR for animal rights nightmare KFC.
His toasted rabbit. That one.
In this new wing world, anything is possible.
Interpublic created bullshit pump and dump stock inflation at investors' detriment. Interpublic has no share increase for 30 years, with inflation index stock loses money.
It could turn out that this hot tip is actually nothing more than an old-fashioned pump and dump scheme.
Among Interpublic's many tentacles, the Octagon Company arm has a CEO whose satanic numerology remodels the company every 9 years. 9 in Satanism is selfish because anything times 9 equals 9. The Skull and Bones sacred number for when the etiquette goddess Eulogia was canonized is 322. 322 is transferred to 3 squared plus 2 as 1 and 1. 911 gets on the Porsches and emergency numbers and becomes the day of destruction. The bottomless infinite number of Revelations 9:11.
And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
Interpublic hides lethal side effects for GlaxoSmithKline.
I want to pick up on the question Mr. Coffin asked you about the 5-fold increase of the Paxil kids experiencing suicidality over placebo kids. You recall those questions?
I do.
And you said that you weren't particularly aware of that except for with regard to a manuscript that was sent to you in confidence by GSK?
Correct.
That actually is not correct, though. I mean, this was an issue that had been presented to you by a number of different reporters that you personally responded to. Is that correct?
Interpublic represents big pharma like Eli Lilly.
Said I see a lot of children around here. Now, I have dedicated my life, or whatever is left of it, to the children of the future. Because I have spent 35 years of my life working in an industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and they do nothing but annihilate the population of this world.
They hide Novo Nordisk's diabetes drug Victoza is causing cancer.
Recent scientific studies have shown that the diabetic drug Victoza may cause an increased risk of pancreatic cancer.
Interpublic has hidden HP's means of production, Chinese child slave labor. Apple is child slavery king, but its founder learned ethics working at HP. Interpublic ran PR to hide child slavery for Samsung too.
They say employees work 11 to 13 hours a day, 6 days a week, and the children are paid 30% less than the adults.
CEO Apotheca replaced CEO Mark Hurd, resigning for sexual criminality, stole software from Oracle, who was spying on Microsoft, which put back doors on everything for the government, so it's hard to feel bad for any of them. Oracle got back at HP by hiring Mark Hurd as their president.
He left Hewlett-Packard about 5 years ago under extraordinary circumstances. He had been accused of sexual harassment. Nothing came of those charges, but he left the company anyway, and just 2 weeks later showed up at Oracle.
HP got in trouble with UK's Financial Reporting Council, Securities Fraud Office and the US SEC for white-collared crime. Of course, the US SEC seldom follows through, but UK charged the standard fines, inconsequential to big business. HP triggered the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act for numerous counts of bribery, and thanks to Interpublic, none the worse for it. Interpublic created the IKEA illusion of self-actualization ridiculed in Fight Club.
I'd flip through catalogs and wonder, what kind of dining set defines me as a person?
US bribery is legal. HP has been part of the legislation, writing ALEC as their technology task force.
And the idea is pretty simple. ALEC connects corporate lobbyists with state legislators and helps to push corporate-written legislation into the states, all 50 of them.
Interpublic also runs PR against recognition of Nike's child slavery.
That's not a tall order.
Excuse me, do you guys know where the Nike campus is?
Yeah, you hang a right on Walker.
Yeah?
And you'll see it on your southwest corner.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so we're on Nike's campus right now. It's a little bit different than the factories in Indonesia, just a tiny bit.
Interpublic is behind the unlimited talk false advertising on burner phones that the Federal Trade Commission cannot make a dent in. Interpublic keeps Sabra's image strong despite countless listeria outbreaks.
Learned about the popular hummus brand Sabra using genetically modified organisms, GMOs, potentially harmful. Well, this morning, the same company is recalling 30,000 cases of the hummus due to possible contamination with
Interpublic marketed Adobe Flash, which is inferior to HTML5. Adobe Flash renders VPNs useless.
And then it said Flash had stopped responding. Oh dear God. I clicked yes on the troubleshoot and then that crashed. Screw some! Anyway, yeah, I raged pretty hard, then I cried in the corner of my room.
They keep Experian going, whose ironic stance as identity protection nonetheless has led to countless identity thefts, especially T-Mobile, which is cake to hack. Again, image maintained by Interpublic.
Yet another hack to tell you about tonight. Experian has a major data breach, and it affects 15 million T-Mobile customers.
The Human Rights Council, Presbyterian Church, City of Portland and numerous others have boycotted HP because of biometric population registry and prison tech for Israelis to use on Palestine.
Why should you boycott Hewlett-Packard? Its technologies are used to violate human rights and civil rights in both Palestine and the US.
Interpublic obfuscates Hewlett-Packard bloody hands. Interpublic gave us Jared Fogle for Subway.
Something that pushed her too far.
Will you let me see your kids naked? I would love to see them naked.
So which your kids do you think I'll like better seeing naked, your son or your daughter?
Interpublic, also called IPG, covers for Oreo outsourcing.
In 1993, the company got a $90 million tax break to modernize the Chicago plant, but it evidently wasn't modern enough. It now stands as a populist argument that companies should pay a price for sending jobs abroad to keep profits up.
Interpublic puts rose glasses on Anheuser-Busch InBev beer monopoly.
The Justice Department is reportedly close to approving Anheuser-Busch InBev's acquisition of SAB Miller. AB InBev and SAB Miller are currently the world's #1 and #2 leading brewers.
And Interpublic runs PR against workers' rights violations at Walmart. Interpublic creates bullshit reasons for Google to siphon news through establishment-biased algorithms.
So before the election, many on the right were complaining that conservative articles were not coming up on Google searches, and now we're hearing something similar from the other side of the aisle. So you believe that the website you work for in particular is being targeted?
Yes, and among a whole series of left-wing, progressive, and anti-war websites.
And Interpublic makes sure Google and Amazon aren't getting too much negative press for paying next to nothing in taxes.
It's fresh ammunition tonight for those who say giant corporations don't pay enough tax in Britain. Amazon has revealed it paid 50% less tax in the UK last year than it did the year before.
In fact, they help all sorts of companies with the PR needed for tax dodging, including FedEx.
FedEx spends more money to not pay taxes than they do paying taxes. That is
Interpublic heinous Webish and Wickham keeps the civilian torture of Egyptian intelligence from the public eye. Dig into the docs for a deeper understanding of Interpublic. They're corrupt agencies like Earth 911, and the predatory agencies they cater to like HP.
But things are not just that simple. There are various solutions to various problems, you say. I have always been what is known as a hammer mechanic. If you can't get it done with a hammer, use a bigger one. Of course, I could get into a lot of trouble calling for revolution here. But fuck it, I'm tired of everyone telling everyone else what is wrong. They are telling the wrong people. You tell Lloyd Blankfein about the misery he has caused in the world just before you tighten the noose around his neck. You tell Rupert Murdoch about the millions he has wronged minutes before you throw him out a 30-story window. You inform Bibi Netanyahu that he is a racist, murdering pig the instant that you toss him unarmed into a crowd of Palestinian prisoners. These people deserve no more justice than this. But what about the rule of law? You might well ask. Did you vote for a law that allows corporations to attain the rights of the individual? Did you vote for the Patriot Act? Did you vote to make Israel a state within Palestine? No. Well, who did all these things without your consent? I could go on forever, and have for years here, about what the roots of our problems are, and it won't change anything. A child can see how to begin to fix the inequities of this planet.
You are the resistance. We will not forgive. We will not forget. Expect us.